Let's solidify some of the information that we've been sharing with a fun game. I know that this next section is based on the Spot the Egg book that you developed, Jenna. So I'll let Dr. Rangan and you discuss some of the great images that you've been able to come up with in this version of our game, which is called Welcome to the Poison Hunt. Can you spot the ick? Go ahead.
All right, let's go to our first one here. So, what icks might be found outside in the yard? This is a very nice looking picture, and you might not suspect that there could be some hazardous things out here. So, Jenna, what are some of the hazardous things that we think about when we think outside the home?
One of the things found outside the home are toxic plants.
There you go. Yeah. So, toxic plants, anytime a child, encounters a plant or a flower and might be enticed to put a part of that plant into their mouths, certainly a lot of bad things can happen. And some plants, even though they're non-toxic, can be a choking hazard or could just simply cause nausea or vomiting. But some of the plants we have can also be systemically toxic. In other words, when you absorb the chemicals in that plant, they can cause some pretty severe side effects. So it's important to know the plants that are outside in your yard and to make sure that you understand whether or not they might be toxic. All right, let's go to question 2. What other icks might be found outside, let's say hiding underneath a rock? What do you say to that, Jenna?
Well, this is very common, and some of the things that we have here in California are poisonous or venomous critters. Particularly that like to hide underneath rocks are rattlesnakes.
Definitely. Rattlesnakes in California, up and down California, we've got pretty good outside conditions and temperatures for rattlesnakes to thrive. And rattlesnake season generally runs from the spring to the fall, and they tend to kind of hibernate in the wintertime. But the bottom line is that a lot of the places where we live up and down California are really in the rattlesnake's backyard. So we live in their land. And so it's not surprising that you see, especially in these sort of covered areas where it's brush or rocks, that you might find a venomous creature like a rattlesnake or a scorpion or something like that. So it's important to be aware that these sometimes will just show up randomly in our yards. And we should be aware that we should not be going near them or touching them. All right, question 3. What kinds of icks can we find in the kitchen? I'm sure there's a lot of these. What do you think, Jenna?
Well, I know in my home, if you open that cabinet, you are going to find cleaning products.
Yes, and this can be a very sort of a bad situation, not only from the standpoint that we have toxic products, but where they're stored. So we tend to often store a lot of our cleaning products in these lower cabinets, especially the ones that are under the sink. And certainly that's very convenient for us in terms of using the products to clean our kitchen, but they are right at the eye level of children. So this sort of just brings up a couple of important points. One is that children tend to do things and get into things that are at their own height. So we got to be supervising our kids around the kitchen. And second, we should be considering not storing these substances under the sink, or if we do, that we should have some kind of child-safe lock on those cabinets so young children aren't inadvertently getting into these products. All right, how about the bathroom, Jenna? What icks can we find in the bathroom?
Well, again, in my bathroom, definitely cosmetics. And also, I know very commonly in a lot of homes, lots of different types of medicine.
That's right. And we call these things medicine cabinets. So this is where we tend to concentrate all of our medicines. And, there are a few medicines out there, especially when it comes to things like medicines that we use to treat blood pressure or medicines that we use to treat seizure disorders, things like that. These are the kinds of medicines where it only takes maybe 1 or 2 pills to cause very, very serious side effects in a young child. And we've even seen cases of death result from those kinds of exposures. So having these kinds of medicines all in one place can be a very, very dangerous situation. And even though they're kind of high up, well, children sometimes do find their way to be able to climb on various, items in the bathroom to be able to reach these medicine cabinets. And pills can be very colorful and very inviting to the eye. And that's again why Jenna emphasizes don't call medicine candy, because they look like candy and children may get into those. And even though medication bottles are what we call child resistant, it doesn't mean children can't get into them. It just means that it takes a little bit longer for them to get into them, and that it buys a little bit of time so that we can take that bottle away if a child happens to get into it. So just having these medications around can be a very serious proposition around the house. So again, if you have medications and you've got small children, keep them locked up, out of sight, out of reach, out of mind. All right. Thank you very much, Jen. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that was great. Thank you.
Yeah, and all of those illustrations are actually from the Spot the Ick book, and you can see just how amazing and just well crafted the entire product is. So congratulations to you, Jenna, on just a really great initiative that you've been spearheading. Let's wrap up this session with some key takeaways, and maybe you can walk us through just, a couple of safety tips that you want our viewers to understand about pediatric poisoning prevention.
Yeah, so the first is to supervise children at all times, and then safely store the things that you have around your home. Safe storage is up, away, out of sight and reach of children, and also preferably locked, because like Dr. Rangan mentioned, child resistant isn't always child proof. Make sure to store items safely in their original containers as well. And then if you do have unused or expired medication around the home, make sure to properly or safely discard of those, and also chemicals around the home environment.
Great, wonderful information. Thank you again for all that you do and for coming on and sharing your best practices and insights and experiences. As always, for our viewers, we have a number of our team members standing by to help answer your questions related to poison overdose and pediatric hazards. You can always call us 24 hours a day, 7 days a week at 1-800-222-1222. And as I understand it, if people want to contact the health education team, we're also sharing an email. So feel free to email our health education team. It's our statewide specialists in health education, just like Jenna Jackson, who will be working closely with all of our partners around the state to help make sure that pediatric poisoning prevention educational materials, whether it's lectures, written materials, posters, we have all of those available. We're happy to share those resources with anyone who inquires. So that email is also included at the bottom of this video.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
healthed@calpoison.org, just in case you can't see it. So feel free to email us with any partnership or educational opportunities.
Thanks for coming on today, Jenna Jackson, and thanks, Dr. Rangan, for this great session of Close Calls with California Poison Control.